I think most of us don't have budgets. That I will be for sure. We don't have budgets. We just know we are earning 50,000. We rent, food. Yes, 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 yes. Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. As for those who are new here, my name is stellamuyoka, and my channel basically is about women. We focus more on women and the experiences we have as women. I have a few friends that have actually turned up. Both of them have turned into millionaires, and because of that, today I'm going to dedicate this segment to them. And in that aspect, I'm going to talk about me being able actually to save up to $1 million. And this is for those people who are looking for savings. I'm not talking about investing to having $1 million. I'm not talking about earning it. I'm just talking about saving. And I think the one key effect we've had in our lives from African lives as Kenyan, basically, finances are one thing that our parents have not taught us, and most of us have actually inherited our spending habits from our parents. And it's unfortunate that people actually tend to inherit such kind of things. Other than that, we've learned from friends, because these are the things we've not been taught from our young age. And I believe as new parents, we gear towards, I'm hoping that we are all teaching our kids about finances and saving up. So today, this is for anyone looking for tips on how to save. Welcome. And as we start, I think I made my first, when I checked my bank, I think I was around 27, and that is the first time actually, that is when I realized actually I had saved up to $1 million. And it was a surprise at the same time, but it took me a few years. And at this point, I was still trying to learn about saving. I was still learning. I hadn't learned much about investing. I think my aspect was to just have money in the bank for emergencies. I wanted to have the free will of spending. I didn't want to lack, because if you've actually slept a day without having $1 million, it's because you don't have money. I think you work towards not lacking. And I think that was my drive to actually being able to save. And first, I would love to say that you're supposed to have a saving goal. Have a reason as to why you save. My reason was I didn't want to lack. I never wanted to lack. And I wanted the free will of spending, because I loved spending. So I didn't have a saving goal per se. I didn't say that I'm going to save up to $1 million. No. I just said I wanted money in the bank. And the kind of job that I work, it's not, we call it like, it's not stable like most, like people who have, like ours is just contract basis. The contract can end today. So I wanted the free will of being able to actually save, spend, and not worry about tomorrow. So have a saving goal. What are you saving towards, and why are you saving? Once you define that, you'll be able actually to have a direction in life, and you'll learn to have the commitment to save. And number 2 is to make a commitment. I can say that I want to save 10,000 this month. You will save the first month. The second month you will save. The third month you will be having issues about you get to a point where you want to enjoy life and you need to save. And I think that is where we tend, if you're not committed to your goal of saving, you will find that you're going to spend this money instead of saving. And you have to set timelines. If by 15th I'm supposed to have saved this month, stick to the 15th. If it's 10th, if it's 2nd, stick based on how your money comes. Or if I do this job and I'm paid this is the amount of money I need to set aside. Have that percentage in plan. And always know that we save first before we actually calculate for spending. You don't put a budget up and put savings up. No. You first save, and then now you are actually, the money that is remaining is what you're going to actually budget for rent, for food. That is actually the best aspect of saving. You pay yourself first. Saving is the aspect of paying yourself. This is your money, so you're paying yourself. So you pay yourself first. After paying yourself first, now you cater to your bills and other things you have in life. And number 3, I feel like most of us don't understand the value of a shilling. You need to understand the value of a shilling in this aspect. If I want to buy what is if I want to buy let's say for example, let's use an example of a PK. A PK is 5 shillings, right? But you have 4 shillings because you're lacking 1 shilling. Are you going to be able to pay? Are you going to be able to pay to buy the PK because you lack 1 shilling? That is how you're supposed to understand the value of a shilling. If you understand the value of a shilling, it's going to be so easy for you to save, and you are going to avoid actually impulse buying. For example, you need to get onto a matatu. A matatu is 30 shillings and you have 20. You need 10 shillings more. If you don't have the 10 shillings, are you going to use the same matatu? No. So that is how you're supposed to understand the value of a shilling. If you value 1 shilling, and I'm talking about a shilling, not 10, not 1,000, not 500, understand the value of 1 shilling. And other than that, evaluate your monthly expenses. Where is your money going to? If I'm to ask you today, how much money have you spent over the past week? And in total, most of you won't be able to tell me how much they've spent. And number 2, if I ask you, what have you spent on? You're going to fail to tell me what you've spent your money on. Also, as you're talking about evaluating your monthly expenses, my work mostly is usually field work, and being field work, we do not go to the office on a daily basis. You just work, you wake up, plan your day, and see where you're working from. But most of the time, we usually find ourselves in Mombasa town. And one thing I usually tell the new people coming in to work in our field, I usually say evaluate. I think we usually believe mostly that when you live far away, you're actually saving up more. But the aspect about living far from work, you're supposed to live in the cheapest house possible in the area you're living, if it's far from work. Why? Because you're going to be having to pay a daily commute. Every day you're going to be spending some amount of money to go to work and coming back from work. So you have that, and you have your rent. And in Mombasa gives us the luxury to live in town. And you find that you can look for affordable houses within Mombasa CBD. So I usually tell people, if you can find a house that when you combine your monthly rent from where you're living and you combine plus your daily transport, how much is it coming to? If you evaluate and you find that living closer to work is cheaper than commuting to work, always make the choice of living closer to work. Why? It cuts off from your daily expenses, that is transport, that is food, and etc. We usually there's a lot of money that we spend during the day without us actually knowing. So I lived closer to work, and I found that this is the time where I was able actually to save a lot of money, because my only expense was rent. I was only paying rent and going to work. And going to and from work, I was only spending 60 shillings to go to town, to come back home. So 60 shillings was what I was spending on a daily basis. And if you calculate it with 5 days, that comes to around 300. And if you go for towards a month, that comes to around 1,200. Yes, it's such a little amount of money. When I evaluated where I used to stay in Mtwapa to wherever I was living at that point currently, plus the expenses I had from commuting from Mtwapa to town, I found that that was very, very, they came to almost equally the same thing, and I needed time to do other things. So one, apart from, you find that if you get an affordable house, that equates to the expenses that you had of your house rent plus your daily commute, you'll find that you have a lot of time on your hand. One, it will enable you to do your work better. And other than that, you have time to actually do other activities. And during this period of time is when I was able actually to start up my shoe business. And I believe it's because of the time that I had at hand. I felt like I had so much time at hand, and I was saving a lot of money at the moment. I could be able to comfortably open up a shop. And that is what I did. And as we're talking about actually evaluating our expenses, you need to evaluate your income. From where this is the aspect based on people that I work with. I know mostly people just get salaries from their companies, but also people working as I think we get salaries and expenses and daily allowance for us. And when I joined this field in my first company, I met a very interesting group of ladies. And when I'm saying interesting is because we were at that point we were earning so low. The amount we were earning was very, very low. As I can look at today, I can say it was very low. And two, I think we had the least allowances we were getting from a day to day. But through these ladies, I was able, we were having the same goal. Like I said, be around people who have the same goal. We all wanted to save. And I remember we used to get around 2,500 on a weekly basis. And you know, the funny thing about life is we will be able to save that 2,500. And considering we also used to save our salaries. Our salaries at that point was just for paying rent and just buying ourselves food, because we were all single at that point. But because I think we even had, it was like kind of a competition of how much you're going to be able to save. But there are two very ladies who are very consistent with their saving, and like I at that point, they were so consistent that when they mentioned how much they had saved within this period of time, I think that brought up the interest to actually be able to save more. And because of them, I will say thank you to those ladies that I met. They know themselves, but because of them, I was able to learn the consistency in saving. So no matter how much little, and I learned from that, no matter how much little you're earning, you still have a room for saving. And set up a budget. I think most of us don't have budgets. That I will be for sure. We don't have budgets. We just know we are earning 50,000. We rent, food, yes, but we don't have a budget. We don't know why we are spending 20,000 on food. We don't know why we are spending 15K on rent and everything of that sort. But learn to have a budget. How do you come up with a budget? That is something you also need to understand. How much do you want to pay for rent? And when you're evaluating your rent, they usually say 30% of your income. And I think most of us actually live more than 30% of our income. And you find that you're broke most of the time, and we ask why. And you're supposed to have 30%. 30% of your income is supposed to be your rent. So sit down, calculate, and see that. Number two, how much, if I ask you, how much meat do you consume in your house? Are you even aware of that? Like, how many kgs of meat do you consume in your home? How many chicken do you consume in your home? How many kgs of vegetables do you consume at home? How many liters of oil can you say you use within a month? Do you know that? Sit down and evaluate your expenses and evaluate and set up a budget. Say, my rent is going to be 10,000 this month, or 50 or 100, depending on your scope of income. My rent is going to be 100. Number two, I'm going to spend 5,000 on food, on shopping, or I'm going to spend 10,000, depending on your budget. And on groceries, I'm going to spend this amount of money. Know in a month how much you spend for the various things in life. And as I go back to those days, I know I was single, so I didn't have much I wasn't buying a lot of food, unlike now. And I usually tell people that I used to have a budget of 100 shillings for lunch. Okay? It doesn't matter whether today I woke up and I wanted to eat pilau, it was 100 shillings. So it meant I was spending 200 bob in a day. 60 was for transport to and fro. I used to walk around. I know, for those who understand our kind of work, I usually tell people I used to walk around 90% of my time I was walking. And very few percentage of the time I was using a tuk-tuk, because I had a budget. I had a daily budget of 200 shillings. So 100 shillings was lunch, 100 shillings was going to and fro work, and the 40 shillings on top, if I had the chance, I needed to go to a place that is far from where I was at that current point, I would use that for. So we're usually the worst version of ourselves when we are hungry. And I think that is one thing people don't understand. So you'll find that the 100 shillings, I would either go back home, because already at home I had already had a monthly budget for food. So I would go back home, because I was working closer to work. I will go back home with that 100 shillings, 30 bob to 30 bob back to work. That is 60 shillings. So I would have saved an extra 40. I'd have an extra 40, which equates to 80 within the month. So, or if I was to eat, it doesn't matter what I'm supposed to eat. I had to eat 100 shillings. If I wanted pilau, it's supposed to be 100. That means that I can't be able actually to buy anything else. If I wanted to have some soda, I have to eat a meal that is below the 100 to be able to actually accommodate that soda. And that was the discipline that I had. And through that discipline, I know I had a very strict budget, and I stuck to my budget. And that is how I was able actually to save most of my salary. And I know this is it's not about bragging per se, but I reached to a point where I was saving more that I wasn't even touching my own salary, because I was using the allowance that we have. I know people look at the allowance as a very little amount of money, but it's a lot of money when you when you sit down and reevaluate what it is. So other than that, this is one thing I came to learn later, but have set up an emergency fund. Setting up an emergency fund will aid to assist those times where you need money abruptly for a need. So you need something that is urgent and you need money. And why am I saying I didn't have an emergency fund, but at that time I was the only expense that I had. So when you're alone, you don't have so many emergencies unless they are related to your relatives or your parents who need money for certain urgent things. So learn to have an emergency fund. And an emergency fund is supposed to be 3 times your current expense. So if you're spending 60,000 a month, you're supposed to have 180K in your emergency fund. That is for emergencies. And we mean emergencies are, there can be so many things. Emergencies can come in very, very many aspects, but that is supposed to be your key goal. When you have an emergency, you won't be able actually to go back to your savings account. And as I finish, never ever withdraw money from your savings account. Why? Once you remove that 1,000 shillings, you're drilling a hole. That is like a hole you've drilled. Once you remove the 1,000 shillings and maybe you remove the 1,000 shillings, you wanted to buy yourself a shoe. You have a lot of money, so you're doing the 1,000 shillings to buy a shoe. The next time you want something, you're not going to wait for the next income to come. You're going to go back to your savings account. So that is a hole you've drilled. And once you drill that hole never fills up. And I think that is where we actually fuck up our savings because of that. You remove 1,000, it goes to 2,000, it goes to 5,000, it's like 10,000, and you're like, oh, this is how deep my savings is, and you keep pulling, and that is how you're going to end up going back to square zero. And the worst part about going back to rock bottom, it is the hardest to go back to where you are. You will work your ass off to getting back to where you are, and it's going to be the hardest point in your life, and you're going to be reevaluating all your actions. And because of this, you may or may not be able to go back to where you are before. So in celebration of my friends, have a budget and live below your means. Recently we had to actually cut down on our expenses, and it meant relocating. And it is the hardest decision that I've ever made, because you can afford the current life that you have, but you have goals that actually, you have goals ahead that need to be reached. And when you're cutting down on expenses and you can afford it, it's hard because you feel like you can be able to afford it. Why are you cutting it? But I think when you look at your goals and you evaluate and you see this is where you want to be in 5 years, and if 5 years requires you to reduce your expenses, reduce them. If you're living alone, and I remember, when living alone, I used to love living in bedsitters, and my friends will mock me for that. And I think even they used to say that I have a bedsitter mentality. But in reality, if you're alone, live in a bedsitter. Why do you need a 1-bedroom? Because if you live in a bedsitter, 1, the rent is cheaper. 2, you won't have the pressure to buy so many things in your house. And 3, you have less visitors in your house. For me, it's a yay, because I don't like people in my house. So if you are still single, live in a bedsitter. When you go into a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, you'll have the pressure to buy things. You want a bigger fridge. You want a big TV. I need new sets of seats. I need this. I usually say most of the things we need to. When you're growing from being 1 to more is when you're going to see the need of these things. But when you live in a 1-bedroom, where do you spend your time mostly? It's usually your bed. Very few times you sleep on your couch. So if you can, when you are still single, live live in the cheapest house, spend the less money. The more money you have in the bank, you'll get freedom. You'll feel the freedom, because in the kind of job we do today, we can wake up and you're told, thank you for the years you've given me. I think this is that we need to look somewhere else, and you're fired. Where are you going to start? You look at this. And other than that, I usually say when you get a new job, make sure every job has a personal goal in your life. Jobs can be very demanding, but as much as jobs are demanding, we do it 8 to 5. Always have personal goals towards it. If you're going to work in this company for 2 years, in 2 years, what can you do for your life? If you're going to work in this company in 3 years, those 3 years, what are you going to prove in your life? You want to buy a car, get into a company and say, when I'm getting into this company, I'm going to buy my first car. You will buy your first car. When I get into this company, I want to buy my first piece of land. You'll buy your first piece of land. When I get into this company, I want to build my house. Build your house. And once you set up those standards for yourself, you'll be able to see that as you're moving up the ladder, your personal life is growing and you become fulfilled with whatever life you're living. Other than 5 years from now, you're done with you've resigned from a company, or you get fired from the company and you have nothing to show. You usually go back, and that is how you find most people go into depression. They go into depression basically, and there's a lot of depression. Most people are getting into depression lately, and I think most of it is associated with finances. So if you're in a place where you can be able to save and keep saving, and as you go into 2023, I hope you're all going to climb up to being millionaires and joining those friends of mine. It feels good to actually have some 7 figures in your account, and this is cash. But then again, we'll still have millionaires who are millionaires in assets. You evaluate your life like this. If I have this coach, if I sell this coach, I sell this TV, I sell this, whatever I have, if I am to sell them today, can they make up to $1 million? You're a millionaire. And I think we need to celebrate the small wins you have in life. If you have 500,000 in your account cash, that is 0.5 million. You're still a millionaire. That's $500,000. You're almost, just call yourself a millionaire. You'll get up to whatever you are. If you have 50,000 in your account, keep saving. 10,000, 2,000, 1,000, even 50 shillings is going to get you up to your goal. I usually say 10 shillings looks like a little amount of money, but it's a lot when you evaluate it long term. And basically, this is all about savings. And as I close up on savings, growing up in an African setup, and we were not taught about saving. One thing that helped me develop the discipline for saving was chamas. I know most people will tell you, oh, don't join chamas, do this and this and this and this and this, but chamas give you a saving discipline. And join chamas that are long term, not short term. Long term in the aspect that just 1 year. Take a chama that is 1 year, because in 1 year, you're going to commit to saving that amount of money. Whether you have a job, whether you don't have a job, you're committing to save up the money. You're giving yourself the commitment that at the end of the year, if I'm saving 5,000 a month, I'm going to have 60,000 in December. And you'll find that every month you'll be saving 10,000. This means you're spending 10,000 less. So this 10,000 is going to saving. And when you're joining these chamas, make sure the day you're receiving, make sure you know the purpose of your cash. If it was for saving, please take the money and put it in your savings account. But chamas will show you that you require less. You are spending more and you require less actually to live on a month-to-month basis. And don't put your expenses first. We said savings first and then expenses. And sometimes you can learn to pay your rent. You can learn to pay your expenses ahead, maybe 2 months ahead, 3 months ahead. It relieves you of the pressure of thinking of what next I'm going to do. If I'm going to be able to actually come up with this cash to pay the rent. And 2, it gives you a liberty of what to spend your money on. Imagine if you had paid your rent 3 months in advance, when the next pay you're going to get, you don't have to pay your rent. So what are you going to do with this money? You can find other things to do with your money. So paying in advance actually gives you the liberty to be able to freely spend your cash and freely give it the purpose it has in your life. So keep on spending, join chamas, save, not keep on spending, save, join chamas. And also join circles. Circles is something that I learned a little bit late. And if I knew about circles earlier in my life, I believe my finances would have been better than what they are today. And lastly, as I close up on saving, I usually say one thing, and this is something that I learned from myself, because I think people usually say buy your car in cash. But sitting down and rethinking about it, when you save up money and you buy your car in cash, it means you've taken away your spending power. Like if I was to go back and redo to buy the car the second time, I would actually half I would pay cash and half I would have taken a loan if I was to do that, because I think after spending such an amount of money, cash, it really took away my ability to spend more. So I had to actually go back into savings. And you know, after you're buying, you have a baby here, you have a family to take care of. Now the money was divided. It wasn't as it was before, because prior I was just the only person, and I was the only person, and the only thing that I required was to eat, was to feed myself, pay for the house, and go to work. So the bills were a little bit lower, and I got into school, did a lot of things here and there. So being able to actually return the money that I spent on the car took a little longer period than I had anticipated, you know. And another thing I learned through the savings, your saving culture actually changes with when you're changing. Before, I will do the things I used to do before when I was single do not work for me right now, and it's okay. You just evaluate your life and find ways to be able actually to save some cash aside and see how best you're going. Because before, I will take all my salary and allowances and just survive, find a way of surviving throughout the month, because I had less bills. And now I can't do that, because now people are dependent on me. So I have to put them first. As much as I put my savings aside, I have a specific amount I save on a monthly basis, then put them first. Whatever remains is what I add onto the savings. Thank you for being with me, and as always, women, I have gotten so many requests on men. I need to talk about their issues. I think I will look into that, and if I find people, men who are willing to open up about their experiences in life, I will surely be able to bring them to the channel. As always, my name is Stellamuyoka, and we have so many videos from the previous months. You can go watch them, share your experiences on the comments. Let us be able to know what we can be able to actually talk about next time. And thank you. Bye bye.